policymakers, and lots more. Listen to what some of them had to say on the show. First is the chief scientist of IBM Research Africa, Uyi Stewart, who shared some interesting points on how technology can be used to build and develop the African economy.
I believe that technology is actually central to the transformation of the African continent. Let me just quickly describe what technology is, right? It's the ability to use digital content, either in terms of storage, in terms of gathering, in terms of processing, and transmission, also known as information technology. Now, if you look at everything that is going on in Africa, whether it's banking, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in healthcare, what is central are these attributes that I just talked about. So technology is central and will be a catalyst to the transformation of the African continent.
Okay, but let's look at some critical areas that is in dire need of these technology solutions. What are they, and what do you think we should be doing?
That's a great question, Chooks. I believe that it cuts across the very fiber of who we are as a people, right? Look, let's take everyday life. You wake up in the morning, right? And what do you need to think about? Wellness. Am I well today? That's healthcare, right? Can I look at my vital organs and my vital systems to know, am I really in a good shape today, either to go to work or to go running? That's a decision we need to make. That's just to get started. Now you say, okay, I feel I'm well, therefore I need to eat. That's about food and agriculture. All right, I have eaten, I need to get to work. That is about mobility, right? So you get what I'm saying. When I get to work, I need to access the internet, the World Wide Web. And then you need to use technology to work. So look at this. I have just looked at a day in the life of Uyi or a day in the life of Peter. And what do you see? At the very fiber and center of my very existence and your existence is technology.
Wow, interesting. Now, but do you think African countries are actually taking advantage of these new technologies?
That's where I begin to scratch my head. And you know what? It's a journey we are on. I believe that Africa has not really had a moment to get a rest. In my point of view, this is Africa's moment to take a step back and go on this journey that you talked about. Now, the way I look at it is that different countries are on different pedestal based on their appreciation of what I just described. But make no mistake about it, we are all on a journey, and we've all recognized that we need technology to take us there.
There's this saying that data is the new oil, some call it new oil, some call it Africa's new resources. What's your take on that?
Do you know that there are more mobile phones than we have adults in Africa? What does that mean? It means that each of us carry a veritable source of data. So Gini looks at this ubiquitous device that we all have and its proliferation across the African continent and say, this is going to be the new untapped natural resource in Africa. Notice, untapped, but it's a natural resource because we all have it.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3 steps. What should we do to maximize that data that we have?
Very easy. 1, we need to be smart about collection, which is what we call instrumentation. Number 2, we need to be smart about how we generate insights out of the data in a very timely way. And number 3, we need to turn it back into the citizens in the value add that makes sense to them.
Next is the CEO of Digital Dwell, Adedoyin Odunfa, who was also a guest on the show, and she shared insights on security and privacy issues on the internet.
If you like, it's inherently insecure. You find that it's becoming more ubiquitous in Nigeria, for example, all over the world. And it's not just the internet on our computing devices. It's closer and closer to us. It's in our phones, it's in our cars, it's in all the smart devices that we surround ourselves with. Okay, and it wasn't really built for security. It's actually built for access, to ensure unhindered access. And so we found a situation where this platform, this wonderful platform with almost limitless information, is being exploited by cyber criminals and other fraudsters. So it does give a lot of concern, a lot of room for concern about how we can ensure that we get the benefits of the use of the internet without getting harmed through using it. So we call it the dual potentialities of the internet. does give some concern.
From your experience,
Yes.
how worried should we be in Nigeria?
In Nigeria, I think we should be particularly worried because we have a very low level of awareness of information security or cybersecurity generally. As I just said, because the internet is becoming increasingly ubiquitous, we've got 70 million Nigerians estimated on the internet today. That's growing in double-digit figures. Now imagine all of those people online doing all sorts of things, from social media to transacting to e-commerce to banking to just communicating without that knowledge of the fact that there are risks. Okay, so that gives concern. So the cybercrime bill has come up, and that is a big start, it's a good help. However, we need to ensure that there is awareness of that bill. And we need to ensure that there's enforcement of the bill. So if you see the typical behavior of Nigerians online, they're chatting, especially on social media, people are disclosing too much personal information. And that makes it very easy for a fraudster or a cyber criminal, because essentially if you're able to, as a criminal or cyber criminal, get information without too much effort, it makes it much easier for you to perform your exploits. So if I get information from you to attack you, how easy can that be? So really the essence is to increase the amount of effort that the attacker will have to use to attack you.
Okay, before we get to the ways,
yes.
I want to know your thoughts on the new cyber security bill that you mentioned.
Okay.
Many have argued that that bill has a lot of loopholes. What's your take?
Okay, well, it's actually called the Cybercrime Bill, and my own view is that it's a start. We didn't have a bill before, and that has been a huge inhibitor to internet initiatives, to even foreign direct investment, because it was a vacuum. And I know too many times in too many initiatives that I've been involved with, the starting point is there is no legal and regulatory framework for internet security or internet in Nigeria, the use of internet. And so the fact that there's a bill is a good start. The second step now is what is the content of the bill. To be fair, the bill actually addresses a number of scenarios quite extensively, okay? It at least makes it today a crime to do things like fishing and farming and just using the internet or computers inappropriately. And it defines specific consequences. Some of them are financial, ranging from 1 million to 15 million, to imprisonment, 1 year, to life imprisonment, depending on what the crime is. So that's a start. Now, you could never have an all-encompassing, completely exhaustive bill. So my thinking is that it will evolve. It will evolve over time. There will be improvements, there will be different versions, but the first step is we have the bill. Can we ensure that everybody is aware that that bill is there? Most people are not even aware. Most people, whether professionals or institutions, are not even aware. So that awareness, we have to have widespread national awareness. Then the third step will now be enforcement. How do we enforce what is in the bill? Because if enforcement should start, I think that will change the whole game completely.
But who will enforce?
Well, the onus is on law enforcement agencies. Like the umbrella body, therefore, is the National Office of the National Security Advisor, aided by people like the EFCC, the Nigerian Police, the appropriate sections within those organizations, okay, as well as even private sector organizations. So as a private sector organization, knowing that certain things are now legal or illegal, you start to graft that into your own information security policy. You start to make your employees, your third parties, all the people who deal with you aware that these are actually crimes. And if indeed people are apprehended for some of those crimes and we begin to see that people are apprehended, then I think that, it will change the climate.
And finally, the co-founder of Idara.com, Alpha Mayinka, discussed how e-commerce companies can contribute to economic development across Nigeria.
Look at the advent of e-commerce into the market in Nigeria. It has in many ways created opportunities, not just for our government, but for individuals, and it has been able to scale and grow the small and medium scale enterprise industry. So by far, and like you would understand, it's about the biggest growing segment of the country's economy.
But I don't share your optimism. Okay. And basically the reason is that for each of these e-commerce companies that come up, how many small businesses do we lose? How many shops get closed? I need you to let me in on that.
So for me, I see, what I rather see is opportunities. Reasons being that the internet has given us a platform where we can be innovative, and it is the future. The numbers say it all. I mean, we have about 50.6 million internet users. We have another 80 million subscribed to the internet. And in general, we have 140 million Nigerians who are subscribed to whatever network of your choice. I mean, it's just to say this is the future. So rather than think that this is actually destroying that market, I would actually say, and I mean government is doing these things. There are all sorts of hubs everywhere that are providing this kind of education. I would actually say what we need is an education of these people where they could actually come up to speed with what the future is. Because either or, at some point in the future, they would become obsolete. So it's only one thing. It's only one thing. You need to move with the trend. And don't forget, it's also taking your product or your service to a wider market. You could be on the street and you could still meet 2,000 people, but you could go online and meet 140 million Nigerians. So either or, the advantages are there, the opportunities are there. So I think rather than stay on the side where you think it's destroying, I would actually say we actually embrace the education of this beautiful world of e-commerce that's come to us and how we could
okay, let's look at job creation.
Yes.
Can you say for sure that e-commerce is really creating jobs?
Beyond measure, yes. And I say this because it has. I've been in the e-commerce industry for a while, and even with where I work presently, what we see is that we are having a little bit more specialized skill that didn't exist before now. So I mean, it was I take for instance a graphic artist. It was one of those things to be a graphic artist to do stuff, but now we have even more specialized ways of doing graphics. Because with e-commerce, it's beyond just being able to put a good image, it's being able to sell that image. So I mean, this has been able to take, has given a lot of young Nigerians opportunities with creative minds.
Is the e-commerce sector regulated today?
Well, I know the Ministry of ICT in particular, with the previous minister, had done things in place. So in terms of regulation, I know there are some things in the works, but I know there is an involvement. Okay, there's all sorts of hubs being set up across the country, and what do these hubs do? They take young Nigerians like you and I, who have great ideas, brush them up in certain skills, and then try to, offer them grants and ways they can, bring whatever they're offering to the Nigerian market out there. Not only is this gradually going to put Nigeria on the world map, but it's also going to create a new breed of entrepreneurs. We're seeing it happen across the world. I mean, you see it's not impossible to see a 14-year-old who's going to be a billionaire tomorrow, for instance. And then that's on one side. But in terms of policy, there is the National ICT Policy, for instance. There is the broadband plan also. But these are all policies geared at improving infrastructure, which, of course, is very necessary and is a big challenge of the e-commerce industry today. So I would say, yes, there is a lot of...
Because you wake up every day and you see different types and shades of e-commerce platforms.
That's the beauty of e-commerce.
This is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of the show. But as usual, the conversation continues online. You can watch the entire show on the channel's TV YouTube account or via my blog techsmart.ng. For Tech Trends, I'm Chukwemeka Agbata.